Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time I'm playing in the Tier 7 Soviet light tank, the LTTB. This is rapidly becoming one of my most favorite light tanks to play. And it's not because the vehicle has 90mm of frontal armor, which allows you to ricochet most Tier 6 and Tier 7 tanks that you will meet. And trust me, the lowest tier that this tank can possibly meet is Tier 6, because remember, your light tanks get matched up as if they were a medium tank of one tier higher. And it's a damn good thing they do so, because they're some of the most powerful vehicles if you look at them tier for tier. So the LTTB is lightning fast. It's got a top speed limit of 68 kilometers an hour and a huge engine power of over 30 horsepower per ton. And so this thing is absolutely rapid. It's probably one of the fastest light tanks in the game. It just glides around. And if its ground resistances were just a little bit better, it would probably be like an old T-52, if anyone remembers that vehicle. So we've raced into position here. We are defending against an assault on Erlenberg, and unfortunately for us, there's no artillery on our team or on the enemy team. And yep, that is unfortunate, because light tanks just get so much vision. Of course you want to have artillery on your team, and they're so mobile that it's very tricky for the enemy artillery to target you. And also, towards the end of the game, you can do that infamous light tank rush towards the juicy enemy artillery and take them out, hopefully one by one, or start crying as they one-shot you. But this tank can actually take artillery hits, unlike quite a few light vehicles. Many light tanks, such as the Walker Bulldog, are very big, flat, juicy targets with light hull armor. The LTTB, it can take a few swings. However, there's one thing that the LTTB can't do, as we can see here, and that is depress its gun. I am not kidding you. This is the maximum gun depression that the LTTB has. I believe it is 3 degrees. Let me just quickly check that up. Where is it? Yes, 3 degrees of gun depression, 15 degrees of gun elevation. That means that this tank literally cannot use even the most shallow of gradients to still engage its opponents. And so this position here, I'm just using this bush to keep vision on pretty much half of the enemy team here. I'm trying to light them up for the tanks behind me, but it doesn't seem to be doing them much good. It's, again, real shame that we didn't have artillery in this round, or just some high-tier tank destroyers who have decided to come over onto this flank, because they would probably be ripping apart this Oni now. Fortunately, it looks like the T-29s and the IS. Maybe we're not willing to fire some premium rounds at the front of that Oni, and that Oni does have very decent armor. So I finally get spotted, trying to take a few cheeky shots at the Oni, and then I fall back into this position. From here, we are actually going to probably be able to shoot something with the 3 degrees of gun depression this tank has. This really is a bit of a brawler of a light tank or a long-range sniper. It's not very efficient on these ridgelines at all. You'd be far better suited to be in something like an RU-251 Speerpanzer, an M41 Walker Bulldog that has 8 degrees of gun depression even with an autoloader, and 10 degrees if you choose to use the single-shot 76mm. However, the LTTB has other strengths, as we're going to be seeing, and also makes one of the best pure scout light tanks, I feel, at Tier 7. I play the Walker Bulldog as if it's like a support heavy. But just before I talk about the Walker Bulldog, I tried very, very, very hard to stick around to help out this IS-3, who I thought was a significant asset to our team. But I just can't afford to do so any longer. I get hit by a Tiger from, I think he was camping up here. I lose my tracks, and then I have to use my repair kit to get out of that situation. There was just simply nothing that I felt that I could really do apart from the first engagement. Like, we don't even have enough gun depression on this ridgeline to aim at that T-29's tracks if he was out in the open. So, I was talking about the Walker Bulldog. I love to play the Walker Bulldog as if it's kind of a semi-assassin / support tank. But the LTTB really is a bit more of a brawler of a light tank because of the lack of flexibility. You just simply can't work on those ridgelines. So from here, I'm just trying to spot my opponents. I'm trying to extend view range for my team. When you're in your light tanks, and also when you're in your medium tanks, and even if you can in your heavies and your tank destroyers, you should always be thinking about extending as much vision as you can. Hopefully, you've trained up your crew. You've got a good camera rating in your light tanks. You're using coated optics. I'm using a premium consumable here. Using things like recon on your commander and situational awareness on your radio operator, meaning that you have got better view range than your opponents and also better camera rating than them, even on the move. And remember, that is the bonus of light tanks. Light tanks have the same camera rating when they're moving as to when they're stationary. And so there's no point in staying still in your light tanks unless you're sitting in a bush and specifically trying to hide your silhouette behind the bush. You're not going to achieve very much. So we were able to put a shot into the T-29 there, and he didn't even spot us. That's what you've got to try and get in your light tanks. Wait for opportunities. I tried to spot him for as long as I possibly could, but all of my team are situated where this Tiger and this T-29 is here on this ridgeline, and other tank destroyers and heavy tanks are situated here. We haven't got anybody in this location where you can really start to put pressure on your opponents as they advance along here. And so I'm effectively having to do the work of a light tank and also the work of hopefully what a tank destroyer would be doing right now. Hopefully my tank destroyer would be ripping apart this Ferdinand, or the artillery would be doing so. But sometimes it's not just enough to be providing view range for your team, and you can slowly start to see them melting away. And it's up to you to actually put some damage into your opponents. Unfortunately, I get spotted there, and I don't know if it was an FCM-50T or if it was that T-29. But I got lit up as I fired. That T-29, I didn't think he was going to be able to see me. Always think in your light tanks about what vehicles have what view range. So the FCM-50T is a big danger tank. He's got 400 meters view range. Many FCM-50T drivers will also use coated optics. So this is a very important point. If you haven't seen me do this before, let me quickly explain it to you. When I go forwards into the bush becomes transparent, thus meaning that I can see through it. When I pull back behind the bush, I can shoot through the bush without getting spotted. See that? As soon as I went into the bush, I can now see the T-29. I've decided that he's far enough behind me that I don't actually need to pull back. But if I was, for example, shooting the FCM-50T in this position, I would pull back behind the bush, where I would gain the benefits of its camera rating, but no longer be able to see through the bush to be able to spot my opponents, to be able to take them out. So from here, it's just simple as snipe, snipe, snipe. I'm trying to decide about whether I need to be using premium rounds or regular rounds in this game. Frankly, in this kind of a situation, when I'm having to shoot at heavy tanks and tank destroyers, higher tier tank destroyers at long range, I couldn't give a monkeys if I had to fire APCR. It's one of the things in this tank that is very frustrating is the penetration in the LTTB. The standard rounds, I believe, have only got 170 millimeters of penetration, and even the premium rounds have only got 216. That is not a lot. When you think that an M41 Walker Bulldog has 175 and I believe something like 250 with its heat rounds. One of the frustrating aspects of this tank. But our rounds are doing pretty good here. We're up to 2,700 damage and we're starting to whittle down our opponents. And still, it's absolutely unbelievable that none of my team have decided to come over into this location where they could be getting flanking shots. And so I'm having to do all of the heavy lifting, trying to carry my team as hard as I bloody well can in this game. But unfortunately, a couple of ricochets off this T-29 are keeping him in the game. Just one more will do it, but we're down to our last 11 rounds. 4 standard, 5 premium, and 2 high explosive. Now, I know that the Ferdinand was just there. I might be able to sneak a shot into the back of him, but 2 of my rounds go towards the left, and I figure out, whoa, I see that red indicator come up there. I have a look down. I see that I've got 2 standard rounds, 5 premium, 2 high explosive. That is not a lot. We're still down by 4 tanks. What more do you have to do in your light tank to be able to carry this game? Hopefully I can find a shot into the T-29 here. When this was happening, I was looking around, trying to judge whether I needed to be aggressive or not. Luckily, my team pick up a couple more kills, but then also lose a tank, and now we're down to a T-29 and an AMX-12T. I have a look to see how much health the T-29 is on, and I realize that there is no way we're going to win this game if I sit in the corner. There's a minute left on the game, but that's more than enough for those 2 tanks to cap or to simply be able to bum rush me and take me out. So I take matters into my own hands, and I go and try and assassinate this Ferdinand and this IS that were here. As I come around the corner, I don't have the gun depression to shoot him. See, he's aiming at me. Instead, I decide to reverse side scrape, find a shot into his backside, and try and get safe. Oh gosh, here comes the IS-2 on the enemy team. Please don't hit me, please don't hit me. Evasive maneuvers. So there's now 30 seconds left on the game. And remember, I'm defending. And so that means that all I have to do right now is survive for the next 25 seconds to be able to take down this victory. Oh gosh, here comes that VK2801. We auto-aim at him, put our first shot in. Don't hit me. Yes, he missed. Come on, finish him off with our better rate of fire. Come on, dodge, dodge, dodge. 10 seconds left. Will the IS-2 find the shot into me? There he is. We're wiggling away. Luckily, it looks like he doesn't make the shot. And then 3, 2, 1. Slam dunk, we win the game. Fantastic. And for a moment there, it was 1 versus 5, which means that we take down a Kolobanov's medal. So what a fantastic result for the Tier 7 Soviet light tank, the LTTB. I thought I was a goner at the end when I was in the open. That IS-2 had my flank. Then I thought the VK was going to shoot me. I was also still trying to avoid getting shot by the IS-2 while fighting out in the VK. And I have to admit, I was ecstatic to be able to take down this round. I really felt like I had done absolutely everything for the team, and I was happy to come through with the victory. This replay was as simple as using your top speed to get into an aggressive location to be able to start to spot your opponents, fall back into safer locations, and continue to spot pretty much half of the enemy team for maybe 3 minutes. And when I noticed that we were no longer able to hold this flank, we had no artillery to support my vision, no tank destroyers to assist me, we fell back to provide more view range yet again, and fall back into our final position where we were able to make use of our knowledge of the spotting mechanics to outplay and outgun our opponents, irrelevant of the paltry amount of support that I got here. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So we picked up the high caliber scout medal and the one that everyone wants, but fair enough, I didn't have to kill all of my opponents in this game, the Kolobanovs. This was 1,377 base experience points, and that is not enough to get an ace tanker. This was just a first class medal. To get an ace tanker in the LTTB, you really have to be shooting at higher tiered opponents, hopefully tanks that are 3 tiers higher than you at tier 10, and do about 3,000 damage to be able to pick up an ace. We fired 37 rounds this game, 28 of those hit and 22 penetrated. Let's see if we made a loss considering how many premium rounds we fired. Now, we still made 6,000 credits profit, but when we also take into account that we used a small repair kit and a premium consumable, we were in the red this game. But it is not often that you have to do 3,600 damage in your light tank, double what pretty much everyone else on your team was able to do, and 1.5 times what this T-29 was able to do to take down the victory. And it truly is one of the major weaknesses of the LTTB, this penetration on the 85mm. It does exceedingly well against lower and equal tiered tanks. Well, not so much heavies, but when you have their flanks, this 85mm is still very, very nice. It can pick apart your opponents very quickly, as long as you don't have to use that terrible gun depression that it gets. So hopefully you guys picked up a few tips for your light tanks here. The difference usually between a good game and an excellent game is when a player, and also the situation, allows the tank to be able to dictate the spotting. And for the LTTB, that's anywhere from about 350 to 445 meters. So if you like this video, or maybe you just found it useful, then please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if this video has sparked your interest in the Tier 7 Soviet light tank, then simply click through up here and you can go through to an absolute monster of a game by Santab in the LTTB. And let me know in the comments down below, what are your key tips for other light tank drivers out there? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.